Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if this is your first time here. I am Gillian Berry and I am so excited for today's video. We have an absolutely amazing guest with us. We have Alyse Parker. She is so awesome. She inspired me so much to become raw vegan, and nothing has changed my life more. So she's pretty incredible. She is actually not vegan anymore. She has left veganism. And as a result, she has experienced a tremendous amount of backlash. So we are going to talk a little bit about that and talk about cancel culture and all of that, which I would love to just see go away. So we're going to have a great conversation. And I feel like as a result of everything Alyse has been through, she has just shown so much strength and wisdom and just has like so much love to offer despite all the opposition. So I truly do feel like she has a lot to offer people who might be going through a difficult time. And we're going to talk about that and many other amazing things. So be sure to give this video a big thumbs up right now. And let's get started. Hey, Alyse, how are you?
Hello, love. I am good. I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I know we're
Yeah,
gonna we're gonna dive into a lot today, and I think it's gonna be an amazing conversation.
it's going to be so great. And thank you so much for saying yes to doing this. I have to say, when I asked you, I've been wanting to ask you for a little while. And I thought that you would say no because I mean, you've experienced a lot of backlash from a lot of vegans. And I thought you would just be like, I want to steer clear of the vegan community. And I was like, I don't blame her. She's probably just going to say no. So I was so happy you said yes. And I have a lot of respect for that. So everyone,
Mm,
be sure to give Alyse just so much love in the comment section and just show her like we can show love, kindness, and compassion, even to somebody who leaves the vegan lifestyle. You might not agree with it, but it doesn't mean you have to show disrespect. We can still love those people. And that's part of what this video is about today.
mm-hmm. Yeah. When I got your invitation to come on here, I was like, heck yes, immediately. I read through the whole thing and it was like a full body yes for me. And I haven't talked about diet in a while, really since I made the transition out of a vegan diet and lifestyle. And with the opportunity to be able to dive into this, I was just like, heck yes, there's a
Yeah.
lot that I could share on this. So, where should we start?
Yeah, it's going to be so awesome. I'm so glad like you really want to do it. I just love having conversations only with people when they're really into it and really want to do it. So it's awesome. Like you're
Yeah.
totally present with us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I do have to ask, I want to ask, like being a raw vegan, knowing you were raw vegan for about 4 years, roughly, right? 4.5 years.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was mostly raw for 4.5 years, and I was kind of like in and out of like full on raw vegan, high fat raw vegan, high carb raw vegan, mono meals, like just watermelon and oranges, just coconut water, and then also I would dive into like cooked vegan food as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved your videos. I still love your videos. So
Oh,
I do
thank
want to
you.
say, like, do you ever miss the raw vegan lifestyle?
Good question to start with. I miss at times the that season of my life. And maybe miss isn't the most appropriate word, but like I reflect back on those times with love and kind of this like nostalgic feeling of appreciation and gratitude for that season. Like when I think back to that time in my life, it felt very vibrant and colorful and close to nature. I was living in Hawaii for the majority of time that I was vegan and raw vegan. And so, like, getting local fruit from the farmers market and the farms nearby. And um, so I feel a lot of gratitude. I don't know if I would say I miss it because I feel
Hmm.
like if I say I miss it, then it's like I'm not also fully present with the season that I'm in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. So about 4.5 years. And then you transitioned back because you felt like you were having some health problems, right? And then you felt better when you transitioned back.
Yeah, so I was having health problems and I don't attribute it all to my diet. I was actually living in a home with black mold at the time. And so I was kind of going through the ringer and I was doing my absolute best to be on this like mold cleansing, candida cleansing protocol, raw
Hmm.
vegan. And that protocol was so restrictive because I wasn't able to really have carbs on it. And so I just got into a really rough place. And yeah, ultimately it was my health that had me decide to go back.
Yeah. Okay. And then you decided to go back and you announced it to everyone. Like, were you nervous to announce that to everyone? I know, like, I don't ever see myself going back, but I can't imagine, like, because you know how it is. Were you nervous, like, before you announced it?
Yeah, I was nervous. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was pretty nervous.
Did you expect there to be like as much backlash and like hate against it as there was? It was
Not at
crazy.
all.
Yeah, like it's
Honestly, I didn't expect any of it.
wow, no
I was
way.
like really naive to what was coming my way. I think because, well, probably a few reasons. One is the vegans, raw vegans that I was friends with and surrounded myself with were like super chill, super respectful, super loving and open. And so I think that was one reason is like I didn't really have much exposure to people who weren't that way. So I didn't even know that that existed to the extent that it does or did. So that was one thing. And then another was, I guess, going through what I went through, I really was kind of taking action on what I considered my last resort. Like I didn't expect to ever be in the situation that I was in. And so I was very humbled and surrendered and doing it for my health so that I could function. Um, and so I didn't imagine that
Yeah.
people would not get that as much as they didn't get that.
And I feel like you've experienced more backlash than like with that in the vegan community and everything, like than anyone I can think of. And I wonder like why is that? And I feel like you offer so much love and you're so sweet and you're nice. And I mean, even if some people do feel like you made some mistakes, like which I don't, and I think like we're all human. I personally don't think you did, but I know like if people think you made mistakes, it's just like everybody makes mistakes. I think like what would
Mm-hmm.
God think, like to judge so much, you know what I mean? It's just crazy what you've been through. So like that's why I have so much
Yeah.
respect for you because you've been through a lot. Like I don't know if I could handle it. Like you've been through a lot. And like up until
Yeah.
that point you had like probably your channel, like your YouTube channel, you have a YouTube channel, I'll link it down below and everything. Probably up to that point like your YouTube channel was like such good vibes and filled mostly with love, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, that was pretty much how it was. And I guess I have a curiosity of like, because I know there have been a lot of people who used to really be like a leading figure for veganism, and when they transitioned their diet, there was a lot of like apologizing and like kind of like how do I put it into words? What I recognized is that I owned my decision very strongly. I was like, this is literally what I felt I had to do. And so this is my decision. This is the reality.
Yeah.
And I didn't do that much like overextending or trying to like make it better. I was just like, this is just how it went. And I think that might have been something that people didn't jive with.
Yeah. And I feel like you were honest. I feel like from what I saw and like what I've heard, you waited to announce it until you were like 100% sure you were going to leave veganism,
Mm-hmm.
which I can totally understand. That makes complete sense. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, some people feel like you were maybe lying or stuff like that because you waited to announce it, but I totally respect and understand why you would do that, especially with such a big platform. You wouldn't want to
Yeah.
announce it and then be like, oh, maybe this isn't what I'm going to do. And then like back and forth and kind of
Totally.
lose credibility like that. And I mean, I know some people would get upset and be like, well, you charge for courses, this and that. But in my opinion, like people's passions change, people's lifestyle change. Life is constantly changing. I mean, you might be doing something one day, the next day you're not, one year, the next year you're a different person. So I just feel like people need to give you a break. Even now, I feel like you still deal with a bit of it. And I feel like people just rag on you for charging for your courses and stuff like that. And I think it's crazy. I think the world we live in, if everybody focused on their passion, and I mean, we live in a world where we use money, and if everybody focused on their
Totally.
passion and were able to like provide from themselves for themselves with that money, like I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think you did anything wrong. And even if
Yeah.
people feel like you did, like take it easy. You know what I mean? Like you're an awesome person. And like I feel like if every person on the planet were like judged from everything they've said and done in their whole life, we would all be canceled. We've all done things. I like we nobody's perfect, right? So I would just love to see like all this like crazy hate just stop.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think also what I've noticed is that a lot of people are very, very identified with their choices in life, right? So, like, oh, if I go to the gym every day, I'm a fitness person. If I choose not to eat any animals, I am a vegan. If I choose to eat only raw food, I'm a raw vegan. Or if I choose to, um, for my career, create art, then I'm an artist. And it's
Mhm.
like, that is an identity. That's not who we are at the core. who we are at the core is pure love and pure awareness and spirit. And we all have that in common. And then these things that we're choosing to do, whether that's for our entire lifetime or for a few years, that's something that's something we're just trying on, or that's something that we're choosing. That's something that works for us, but that doesn't mean that's who we are.
Absolutely. And talking about like being pure love, I just want to know, like, with all the backlash and like all the hate comments and everything you've been through, like how have you been able to still like stay so loving? Because like I follow you and you still like share so much love, and I just have so much respect for that. I think it would just be so easy to just let it really get to you and become really hateful and hardened, right? So I have a lot of respect for how you've handled it.
Thank you. Yeah. I just don't have it in me to like fight fire with fire. It doesn't make sense to me, and it's not my natural state of being. I've actually had to practice speaking up more firmly and like setting clear boundaries and saying like, hey, no, you can't talk to me like this. Hey, no, this is not appropriate. That has been an edge for me. And that's something that I've learned that's been a benefit from all of this. But my natural state of being is like, wow, that was really mean. Aw, that's sad. And then I like feel the sadness, or like maybe frustration would arise or anger would arise of like, wow, this is really relentless. Like you're really going ham. And then like I would feel the feeling, but to fight fire with fire, it's just like, wait, we're missing the whole point here. And so I believe and like to be an advocate for like, if there's at least one person of the two people who are like communicating back and forth that can be grounded and centered and just hold a frequency of love, then at least we're not going to go into this whole like spiral together, right? If one person is that way, the person who's hating can only go so far.
And I feel like when someone's hating, like I've been there in my life before too. Have done things like not so much online. I'm really like, I don't like, but I'm sure I've done hurtful things to people in my life before. And I feel like whenever you do that, you're not happy, right? Like when people are hating, they're not feeling happy. If you're feeling happy and fulfilled with your life, you are not hating on judging on someone else.
Yeah. And so I hold a lot of compassion and understanding. Like when I in the past have read a really harsh comment, I like feel the pain underneath that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oof, that's a lot. And I was taking it personal for a period of time. And then I learned from my support system being really beautiful mirrors for me and just reflecting, like, hey, dude, that's a projection. Like, that's not about you. That is their own situation. And like, this is who you are. This is how I experience you. And yeah, that's been really helpful for me.
Yeah. So I guess essentially like a situation like this really has made you a lot stronger, right?
So much stronger, so much stronger. And
Yeah.
it's been a really beautiful journey. Like at times, yeah, it's been super difficult, when I'm like 1 or 2 years past that time in my life and there's still stuff coming. It's
I
like
know.
there have been moments where it's a lot, and I've learned so much from it. I used to carry a belief that I need the other people to understand that I have good intentions. I need them to understand like I'm a pure person. And what I've learned throughout this, what I've learned from my mentors and what I've really anchored into is like, oh, they can have that belief, they can have that perspective, and I can have my belief and my perspective and my reality. And they don't need to be the same. We can all have our different beliefs and they can all coexist. It doesn't mean anyone is right or wrong. It just is.
Yeah. That's what I've been learning too.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
like dissolves the intensity a lot and allows for connection to
hmm
actually happen. Like
hmm
connection with differing perspectives can be a reality for all of us.
hmm It must have been really hard when it first happened, right? Like when you first started going through it versus if you get comments now. It's probably strengthened you so much right now versus like when the
Yeah.
first comments first started. Like I know because I just started my YouTube channel this year, and Like I haven't dealt with too much of that. Like I feel bad that you have, but like the first few comments, I remember some people said if you really mean things, I was like, ouch. Or like the first few
Mm-hmm.
dislikes, you're like, ouch, people are disliking. What the heck? And then like,
Mm-hmm.
then they stop hurting, right? So it's probably been like that
Yeah.
for you, right? So you're so strong.
Very much so. Yeah, it's been a journey. And also what I notice is like, I don't, it's so interesting because like I share videos about my lifestyle and how can I like make it not personal? When someone's saying something directly about me and my character, how can I make it not personal and how can it just be like, oh, this person just doesn't resonate with this energy or with this sentence that I said or with this decision, but it's not me at the core. It's like the
Mm-hmm.
identity or the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm surprised. Like, I thought you would have expected the backlash would have come. I was kind of thinking maybe she was thinking about it. Like, sometimes I'm into the law of attraction a bit. And I was thinking she must have like kind of expected it. And then it was like that. But I can't believe you didn't think it would happen at all. But, you know,
I know.
but
That's
that's
my
good. You were
little
being so sweet and kind. Like, it shouldn't be happening. It's so crazy. I wish it would stop.
yeah. Well, what I'm committed to is just being an example of how to keep going, like how
Mm-hmm.
to still love myself and care for myself and be gentle with myself and share what's true for me at each point in time. And just like push that out of the reality. I have more discernment now, right? Like now I would be able to know what's coming if I was to make a similar change now. But that doesn't need to be like a part of my actual reality day to day, moment to moment.
Mm-hmm. I feel like for most people, this would be really difficult to go through. And like I've said, I feel like you've handled it really well. So, I mean, to me, I think I'd have a really hard time going through this, to be honest. I'm just being honest. So, what advice would you give somebody? I mean, the average person, it doesn't have a big YouTube channel like you did, and it doesn't have like, isn't as famous as you or whatever like that. So, but what advice would you give somebody going through a hard time? Not necessarily even
Mm,
related to cancel culture, because I feel like you've been through difficulty, huge opposition, and like,
mhm.
been through a hard time the last couple of years with this. So what advice would you give somebody to like encourage them to keep showing up and keep going forward, like who's having a rough time in their life right now?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to be gentle with yourself and kind to yourself, like almost embodying this unconditional love, mothering, nurturing force field. Like that is the most important thing. The objective is not what can I do so that I can start showing up? What can I do so that I can keep showing up? What can I do to like make an impact? It's like, don't neglect yourself for the purpose of doing this thing. If there is a tough time, a tough experience, then it's all about bringing focus towards yourself in the most loving, gentle way versus like judging yourself, saying, like, yeah, just all of the junk that happens. So I would say that like self-care, go back to the basics, right? Like
Yes.
surround yourself with people who love you and support you, like eat foods that
Yes.
nourish you, move your body, sleep, like be gentle, slow down. And from that place, usually you will more quickly be able to then feel the energy in you, the readiness to start sharing or to continue sharing. But the more that you fight the hard time and try to
Mm-hmm.
bypass it, the longer it's going to take, the more intense it's going to take, the more intense it'll
Mm-hmm.
be.
What has worked best for you? Like have you like meditating or is there anything that's like worked best for you for dealing with it? Or like just sort of a
Mm.
summary of everything you just said?
Um, Giving myself permission to take a step back, not forcing myself to show up if it doesn't feel authentic, if
Mm-hmm.
I am going through something, if I'm processing, and really to lean on mentors and support system, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody doesn't have a mentor or a coach or someone who's like been through that path before, then finding the person in your life that you feel the safest with, and just being able to be in their energy, versus isolating. So yeah, giving myself permission to take a step back, experiencing more stillness. Yeah, bringing it back to the basics, and then support for sure.
Mm-hmm. Support's huge. And like you said too, like movement, I noticed a huge difference. Like
Yeah.
emotion follows motion, like getting outside, getting active, it just does so much for you. If you're just like sitting around focused on like a hard time and like thinking about it, like getting
Yeah.
outside really helps.
And I'm a firm believer that we all know what that next little step is. When we're
Mhm.
going through something, when we're struggling, we know. We have
Mhm.
that intuition of what would be supportive for us right now.
Mhm.
And so it's really not about like, oh, what are other people doing? But it's just tapping into that. I already know. And
Mhm.
I just need to take that one little step and one little step and keep going.
Mhm. Do you think that there is a good thing that has come out of this? Like, I believe with everything bad, like there's something good to come of it, even if it maybe takes a
Mm,
lifetime to see that, or years and years, or sometimes it doesn't take that long. Like, do you
yeah.
see the good in it at this point?
Oh, I see all the good in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I respect you so much.
Yeah, it's been a huge blessing for me. Um, it's
Mhm.
one of the pivotal moments or experiences that has really, really, really helped me grow in so many different ways, like expanding my perspective, having more discernment, um, honoring myself, like so many different things. And also, what's really wild, but also makes sense, is that the majority of my clients who I coach choose me as a coach and want to work with me because they saw me navigate that and
Mhm.
continue showing up and care for myself and growing stronger from it.
Mhm. I
So it's
love
like,
that
whoa,
too.
I've learned so much from that. I've grown so much from that. And then other people recognize that and that, yeah, that it's been a benefit in so many ways for me.
I feel like you could write a book on that. You know what I mean? Like how to get through the
Ooh,
hard times and like the tools to use. And like, I just,
yeah.
something really good. I mean, you're already seeing the good, but I feel like there's something like, I feel like when something's really bad, then something really good comes
Mm,
out of it. When something's like a little bit bad, then there's a little bit like, like
mm,
when people go way down in their life, like, they keep going, they stay positive, like they end up like, it's just kind of like it propels them even farther. You know what I mean? So,
mm.
but sometimes I think like, I mean, you quit veganism 2 years ago, right? Was it
Gosh,
about
I
two
don't
years ago?
know. I feel like it might be
Yeah,
coming up
maybe
on
three.
3.
And to
Yeah.
be still dealing with it. Sometimes I wonder like when will it stop? Like the hate, but I feel
It
like it
it's
will at some
fading.
point. Yeah, it's
It's
fading.
yeah, it's fading.
And I don't want to
And
put too much attention to it because I don't want to make it like all because it is fading and like.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you like when it was all happening, like going through all that, when the public was like starting to get a negative viewpoint and judging you and stuff, did the people close to you, were they supportive? Because I know sometimes when that happens, then some people in your life will just bail. And then maybe that's a good thing because you see like they weren't such a good person around you anyway.
Mm,
But did you have like, did they all stick around or did you lose some relationships too?
yeah, good question. I'm really grateful that the vast majority of people that I was close to and am close to, they love me for me. It's not about the clothes that I wear or the food that I eat or whatever, anything. It's just like they were so happy to actually see me come alive again and like to be able to communicate better because my brain was the main thing. Like my cognitive function was the main thing that was struggling before I transitioned. And
Mm-hmm.
again, more than just because of diet. But the people around me were just like, wow, like we now see how sick you were and how unhealthy you were and how much you were struggling because now we can see the contrast and like they were very 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 supportive. I
Yeah.
think as far as people that I knew and like had a relationship with, I think there was only one person, maybe two, that reached out and said some like really hurtful things to me.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, they weren't in my like inner circle. They were just kind of like part of the raw vegan community. And I had met them a couple of times. So yeah, I was really grateful for the
Yeah.
support.
That's amazing. And do you ever think like it would have just been easier if I didn't quit veganism? Have you ever thought like what if I just stayed raw vegan? Like I would not have to deal with any of this?
It just wasn't an option. Like
Yeah.
I never think that
Hmm.
because I was just like really not in a good place.
Yeah.
As far as like my brain not working. And it's just how my path went.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I wouldn't do that like for my health. I wouldn't have done that like just for the sake of like staying vegan for YouTube. Like it
Mm-hmm.
just all went the way that it went. So I never really look back and wish that I would go differently.
Yeah. And have you ever thought like, I just wish I never even became an influencer in the first place or started a YouTube channel? Like when things like took a change, after you announced you weren't
Hmm.
vegan, do you ever think like, oh, it would have just been easier if I never became an influencer or someone in the public eye?
No, I've never really thought that either. I do remember like a few moments where there was like this really like intense fear of like, oh, like my name and like identity is being like really like spoken upon in a very bad way. And so like is the world forever and ever for the whole rest of my life going to like think I'm a bad person? But again, as soon as I realized anybody can think that, and I still have this real reality of myself where like I have a beautiful group of friends, beautiful relationships, I feel healthy, I love my career, like that's like my reality, and that can still exist, other people saying whatever they want. So once I made that shift, that fear dissolved completely. But
Mhm.
with everything that's happened, I'm still very anchored into, I chose all of this for a reason, and I'm still choosing to show up and share my journey because it just feels aligned, and it
Mhm.
continues to. And if it ever doesn't, then I won't continue because I'm
Mhm.
committed to trusting what feels right and
Mhm.
allowing what doesn't to fall away. But yeah, I've never thought about
Yeah.
wishing that I didn't.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, do you ever do like the odd juice cleanse or like mono fruit cleanse or anything anymore or no?
Oh, so rarely.
Yeah.
I am going to be in Hawaii next month, and I'm so excited. Something about being in an environment where raw vegan food is so abundant and like locally grown, my
Mhm.
body, I just gravitate right back to it. So I'm going to have so much coconut water, probably have that for like the majority of my day. Um, but yeah, I haven't been doing juice cleanses. I don't even have a juicer anymore. Like so
Yeah.
much has changed.
Yeah.
But when I'm in a place where the food is like super local, like we have our farmers market here, and whatever I know is like grown in this area, I'm like, yes, I want that.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
So maybe a little bit more about the cancel culture and then we'll move on to something else.
Okay.
Like for me personally, and I'm raw vegan. I love being raw vegan, but I don't like I can't stand seeing all the hate and stuff. Like what do you think we do to make change with this? Like
Mm,
I think it's just like, especially in the vegan community, I think for me, like personally, I think it sets a bad example for vegans when you hate on other people like that, like how you've been hated on and stuff like that, or
mm,
anybody. And I think it makes a lot of people want to run the other way from the vegan diet. Like it's a diet about compassion and love. And I think we need to be more like that. And I just don't know like how do we like as a species, like people need to control this, especially as the example it's setting for our kids today. You know what I mean?
mhm. Yeah, I think what you just pointed to is really important. That yes, it could be like setting a bad name for veganism and everything that that is, but really like the broader scale of like it's just really not like our human nature.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's not creating more harmony and connection and inner peace. It's like stirring the pot and creating disconnection and struggle and like a lot of like yuck. And
Mm-hmm.
so looking at the bigger picture, I think it comes down to each individual's self responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Absolutely.
So if you are someone who is really sensitive to the words that other people say, then maybe you take the self responsibility to not look at the comment section. And if you are somebody who is just letting it rip and not skimming over what you're saying or checking in with yourself, then maybe you take self responsibility to pause or to take a break from the comment section or to journal about why do you think this is irritating you so much that
Mm-hmm.
this has happened, right? So maybe journaling before even immediately going to comment something. So I think that everybody has self-responsibility. For me, my self-responsibility when I reflect on all of that was thinking through how others may feel and how could I add in some words of compassion and understanding to other people in addition to sharing my truth, right? So we all have our own unique learning and way that we can take self-responsibility. It's not about pointing fingers. The more we point fingers and say, like, I'm the holy one and I'm doing everything right and you're doing everything wrong, it's not about that. It's actually like, how can we team up?
Yeah. And I think you attract what you are. So I think if you're always like hating on people and saying, you're doing this, you're wrong, you're doing this wrong, essentially that's what you're being. And then you're going to attract that into your life too. You're going to attract people maybe being like, you're judging you back. You're doing this wrong. You're doing this wrong. And nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. I think we all just need to show more love and like set a better example for our kids and create a safer space online. Like everything has become online. I can't imagine if I was a kid and it was like this, like, I think like we just really need to make an effort to make everything more safe and like, especially in the on YouTube and people being creative or whatever, like make it safe space where you can just totally be yourself, be creative.
I think another thing too is when we look at a family unit or a relationship, our work, our journey starts there. So if we look at certain individuals who are spewing venom and really mean words, not like said in a kind, understanding way, then likely that's showing up in their intimate relationships too. And so, how can we create more harmony in our immediate life, more like self responsibility and awareness and like doing the work there? And then that's naturally going to show up and create the ripple effect.
It's so true. And I'm so glad we could do the video together. I think it's important to show like a raw vegan can have someone on who left veganism and you can still be like friendly and like awesome together. You know what I mean? And not be like, oh my God, like, you know?
Yeah. It's like if you were to only connect with people who eat the same way you do, then where does that end? Because you could also say, oh, I'm only going to connect with people who dress the same way I do, or who have the same color lipstick that I have right now, or who have the same hairstyle, or who work out the same amount of days a week as I do. And then what? Then everybody else is the wrong person. And I could do the same thing, right? Only connect with people who used to be vegan and now who are no longer vegan. It's like we're creating these tiny bubbles. And if we desire to have peace on earth, that is all inclusive. Nobody's wrong, nobody's right. We're all love, choosing what we're doing in similar and different ways. And that's our reality. And the more that we fight against that and want everyone to be the same, what type of world would it be like if everyone did the same exact thing in every single way? Very robotic, no diversity. We came to Earth to have a beautiful, diverse lifestyle and learn from people who have differences. I think that's huge too, is like, how can we learn? How can we get curious and really stay open?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I think it is like kind of what you were saying. I think it is, there's so many labels now, you know, like it's label, like this day and age, everything's a label. Like you said, I'm this, I'm that. And I think it will start to shift away from that though. I think some people are like, I don't want to label. And like, they're like, I think it will shift, you know?
Yeah. I have a video from a long time ago about labels. I think it's titled like, I'm not my label. Yeah, it's important because then what happens if I am a musician and then all of a sudden I lose my voice or something happens to my hands and I can no longer do that? Then there's an identity crisis. And that's not who we are.
So how do you,
again,
yeah,
go ahead.
how do you think people prevent these identity crises when like they end up detaching from that label or something happens, like you said, you can't perform music anymore, or like that can be really hard on people. I think some people could want to like end their life because they're just like something happened, something changed about them or some big label that they associated with themselves. And I can understand like this human experience, it can feel so real. I can understand, like, I wonder how people can just get more detachment, you know? Like, do you have any suggestions for that? How to feel more detached so that if something like you're detached from whatever happens? and not attached to an outcome. Because being attached to an outcome or attached to things that can cause a lot of bad, you
Yeah.
know?
It seems really important to hmm. It seems really important to understand that, like, to have a spiritual religious connection
Mm-hmm. I agree. That's
and
what I
to
do.
know
Yeah.
that, like, we are pure awareness. I am witnessing myself using a microphone right now. I am not a podcaster or
Mm-hmm.
YouTuber. I am having an experience where I'm talking to a camera. I'm having an experience where I'm going to the gym. I'm having an experience where I'm eating raw vegan food, but I am not that, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're the awareness that that is happening.
Mm-hmm. I think
Um,
that's the biggest thing.
Building that connection more and more and anchoring into that. And also, here could be a fun experiment is like, um, maybe not with diet, but something else. Try going 30 days without the thing that you think you are,
Mm-hmm.
or try adding 30 days with something that you think you would never be or never
Mm-hmm.
do.
It's a
And
good
then
idea.
just
Mm-hmm.
notice what happens.
Mm-hmm. It's a good idea because life can blindside you. You know, we can all be attached to so many things, like physically or like things we do creative wise or anything. And
Mm-hmm.
if you aren't like already detached, it can blindside you and really throw you off. Or relationships, you can feel attached to someone and then like go through a divorce or and then just like not know who you are, not know how to cope. So I think what you're saying is just so bang on, having that connection and knowing like we are source energy and like having that connection to God, knowing we are like limitless and this isn't like truly who we are, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would love to ask you too. I know like you did make the raw vegan diet work for a while, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you loved it for a while, I feel like, when I watched your videos and everything. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of raw vegans watching. And I would love if we could talk a little bit, even though you're not raw vegan anymore, like a little bit about a couple tips or things like that, if you'd be open to that.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
tips do you have in mind? I know we were talking about before starting this, maybe talking about like navigating the holidays,
Yeah.
having a different diet than the people that you spend time with.
I know a lot of people struggle with that. Like people say to me, like, oh, I want to do this diet so bad, but I'll go out to work with the coworkers and they're all having pizza or they're at a restaurant. And they, I think a lot of people feel like ashamed sometimes to have a different diet or like to own up to it. And like I would love to hear your tips on that.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, what I believe is like when something excites us and something feels supportive for us, when we honor that, that is us being of service to other people. If something feels exciting and supportive for us and we're not doing that, we're not being that, um, we're not going to be as much of a light in that experience, right? And so it's really important that we honor what feels right for us. And when it comes to being in like family dynamics or holiday situations, a lot can come up, right? There could be other people who are just actively judging. There could
Mm-hmm.
be that embarrassment or like awkwardness coming up with like, I'm preparing my own meal. And how can we make it more fun and lighthearted? Right. So it's like, hey, I'm choosing to do this thing. This lights me up right now. And like bring that forward. And if somebody is choosing to judge, then we can choose to receive that and take that on and believe that as our truth, or we can see it as like, that's your story. That's not my
Mm-hmm.
reality. That's your
Mm-hmm.
story. Right. Again, being able to hold multiple perspectives and multiple realities and multiple food preferences. Neither is right or wrong. That's just what you're choosing. And this is just what I'm choosing. And we're both humans. What we really want is connection.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well said. And I know for me, like you just start doing it and you start bringing your own food or making it work in these social gatherings. And like you just like for me, I feel so good on the diet. In many cases, like people do. And I just feel like they then inspire the people. They might feel like maybe they're going to judge me, but then at the end of the day, like they end up feeling more inspired and they're like, oh, I'm going to
Mm.
go drink, eat more fruits and veggies or like make a juice.
Ooh,
You know what I mean?
yes. Okay. So this is an important thing to note is that you don't need to convince anybody. You get to just do your own thing. And if somebody asks a question, then there is an opening and they would like to have an answer and they would like to discuss and they're curious. If nobody is asking, then there's a closed door there. And so if you're about to start saying like, here are all the ways this has benefited me and this is so amazing and here's the impact on the world, it's like they're a closed door. That it's a waste of time and energy. So focus on doing you and glowing and shining and feeling good. And if there is an opening, then that's where you get to share.
Absolutely. And I'm wondering, okay, I know a lot of people say on my channel, Jill, like I try the raw vegan diet and I have such a hard time keeping weight on. So I'm curious, when you were raw vegan, like, did you struggle with keeping weight on? And like, how is your weight now versus then?
Ooh, this is a good question. So I've had multiple different experiences. When I first went raw vegan, I was struggling with overeating, and that didn't change when I went raw vegan. I thought it would. I thought it would totally take that out, but I continued to overeat, and so I was able to keep weight on from eating a lot of dates and a lot of bananas, and a lot of calories, essentially. And then towards the end, when I was raw vegan, I was not eating enough. And that was partly because I lost my appetite because of the mold in my home. But really, it's just like, how many calories are you eating? And then trying to have, well, depending on your preference, a balance of the macronutrients. But yeah, I noticed like there were times I was on and off tracking how many calories just to be able to like make sure, okay, I'm eating enough or I'm not eating enough. But I know that it's doable to keep on weight. It's definitely different. It's an adjustment. Like your body navigates and digests raw food totally different than cooked vegan food and totally different than non-vegan food. So it just takes practice and like adjusting to your body.
Yeah, it really does. Absolutely. I know too, some people say that this I feel like is the biggest thing when people try to do this diet. A lot of them say like they feel hungry all the time and they can't like handle that. Did you have that experience? I know I found things like eating a lot more like plant-based proteins, like soaked lentils, chia seed pudding, like that stuff like makes a huge difference for me. What was your experience?
Oh, that's a really good question. It's so long ago, but from what I can remember, like I don't necessarily think it was that I felt hungry all the time, but I think my body was adjusting to having more like water dense food versus like other food. Like my body was just figuring it out, like, oh, this feels different. My belly's full, but like, did I get enough calories? But I'm also like a very small person. I'm 4 feet and 10 inches tall.
Wow.
And so the amount of calories that I need in a day is not too much. So as a raw vegan, it was super easy for me to get the calories that I needed. So I don't know if I'm the best person to like talk into that.
Yeah. I mean, I have no problem keeping weight on. I actually weigh more now as a raw vegan than I did before when I ate the standard American diet.
Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have no problem. So I mean, it just totally works for me, but I understand if some people like it doesn't work for. But yeah, I love it.
Well,
When
I was going to say you feel and seem very healthy and vibrant to me.
Thank you. When you first went raw, like you felt great, right? Like it like really changed your life a lot when you first like transitioned to raw.
Yeah. I felt so good, but my transition to raw was like very intense. When I say that, what I mean is like before I went raw, I was really struggling with like a very unhealthy diet, like standard American diet, but like just like I was in college at the time, I was drinking, I was eating processed food, like I was overeating on like chocolate, just like I was just not in a good place with diet. And when I went raw vegan, I also did like a complete overhaul of my life. So I stopped spending time with friends that were kind of toxic in my life. I stopped consuming content that was negative. I started journaling every day. I started meditating. I did all these things at once and being raw vegan. So it was like, oh my gosh, I feel amazing.
Yeah. And did you
Yeah.
experience detox? Like I didn't experience any detox, but I know a lot of people do. And that's something where they're like, I don't know if I can do this diet anymore because the detox, you know?
I don't remember experiencing detox. I just remember feeling better like right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember you were so inspiring to me. Like all your videos, I love them so much. Like
Oh,
that's when I first started. Well, I started being raw in 2016. So it was probably around the time you did, I
oh
think.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me it was 2015. So super
Yeah.
similar time.
And what inspired you to start YouTube back then? Like, was it, did you start because of raw? Did you start before that?
I started because of raw. So when I was at a really like rough, unhealthy time in my life in college, I found Fully Raw Christina's channel on YouTube and
Mm-hmm.
was just like, oh my gosh, this woman is glowing and vibrant and like everything's colorful and wow. And so that was what first inspired me. And then I also, like I said, did all of these other changes at the same time. And from feeling so much better, I was like, ooh, this feels really important for me to share my journey because I would love to inspire someone in the way that I was inspired. So it's beautiful how we're all like continuing to do this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And do you
Mm.
still like making YouTube videos like as much as you did back then? Just because
So
like,
this is a good question. I just recently feel like reinvigorated and energized and excited again. The last couple years have been really intense for me. Like I naturally withdrew from YouTube a little bit. I was still sharing videos, but the last couple years was more like I'm processing everything that happened in private. And just within the last month or so, I'm like, I'm ready to do this, like full
yeah,
on. Let's go. Yeah.
good. I like your videos, you know?
Oh,
You're
thank
just so
you.
real. Like I like it.
Hmm.
Yeah. So what do you like other than YouTube? What do you focus on now? Like you do coaching, right? And you do courses?
Yeah,
Are they like
I do.
self-development?
Yeah, more self-growth focused. The I have one main coaching program. It's called Alignment Accelerator. And so
Mm-hmm.
in that program, I support women with clearing out the limiting beliefs and like conditioning and all of the things that are blocking them from doing the thing that they know that they're here to do. Right. So if that's them creating their own business, if that's them moving to a different country, like big changes in their life, but they feel like held back from it. It's like they're holding two hands. One is the knowing of what I'm here to do. And then the other is like all the blockages.
Mm-hmm.
I help women clear that out so they can finally align with what feels best for them.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. I think a lot of people don't realize like the subconscious like beliefs that are holding us back and things from childhood or and how much like the subconscious runs our life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just everything like with social media and cancel culture, like a lot of women, a lot of people have beautiful, big dreams for themselves. But because of childhood conditioning and then also present day conditioning and like judgments and all of that, it's a lot
Mm-hmm.
to navigate. And I think it can be much simpler.
Mm-hmm. I'll link your information down below too if anybody's interested.
Thank you.
And do you do like your coaching? It's mostly, is it Zoom and like phone calls and stuff like that?
Yeah, so that program's online. We have Zoom calls. It's a group format, which I find is
Mm-hmm.
really powerful because individuals are learning from each other. Um, yeah, I've been running it for 2.5 years now, which is
Wow.
so crazy. Yeah, I
That's
love
great. And you
it.
must meet some pretty amazing people.
Yeah, yeah,
And
it's beautiful.
and it's great because I feel like you've turned your like you're clearly that's probably what you feel most passionate about, right? So like you've turned your passion into your business. And I think that's a good thing, you know? And I think there's too much hate that goes to that too. Like people hating if people are charging for something that's like self-development or health related, because that allows the person to maybe not do a job they wouldn't otherwise like. And it allows them to put their full attention to something where they can add the most value to people's lives.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer of like if someone's loving their life and like everything's going well, let's celebrate. Like why would
Mhm.
we do anything other than celebrate? And if someone's really struggling, let's support them. Why would we do anything other than support?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I just want to ask you one more question, and then
Okay.
if there's anything else you want to share after that, then to absolutely do so. But I want to ask, like, I just started YouTube this year, so my channel's pretty new. It's going
Hmm.
great. I absolutely love it. I do think like it's going to get a lot bigger. So I'm just wondering, what advice would you have for somebody like me? Because I know even when channels get bigger, people make videos hating on you, especially in the vegan community on YouTube, and they just like go after you no matter what. Like,
Hmm.
and so I mean for other people as well who are thinking of starting YouTube on YouTube, or just not even necessarily YouTube, like an influencer, they're thinking about it. Like,
Yeah, my biggest piece of advice is stay true to yourself and your core and your truth, and tune in less to what other people are doing. You don't need to understand what people are doing. Don't need to mirror or mimic what other people are doing in order to have a successful business and life and creative passion. Like, the farther you stray from yourself, you're just going farther and farther from what's meant for you. And the more you stay true to yourself, everything that's meant to be will find its way.
mm-hmm, absolutely. Okay, well said. Thanks. And
Yeah,
is there
honestly,
any, yeah.
I'll add one more thing to that is I wouldn't be able to do what I do and continue showing up if it wasn't for like deleting the apps from time to time, taking a break from time to time, like tuning out from time to time. I don't really follow that many people or subscribe to that many people. It's like, if we're looking at the balance of like consuming and creating, I notice for me personally, the more I'm consuming, the less capacity that I have to create. And so, how can we just tune out, be ourselves, and share from that place?
It's so true. I feel like when you're over consuming, you're just so overstimulated too, and you're less connected to like God and the universe. And you're just like, it's smart.
Yeah.
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 My friend, he has a box where there's this product where you can lock your phone in it so you can't even get it out. So he
I've
uses
heard
that. Have you
of
heard
that.
that? And he can like, it's like
Yeah.
at a certain time of day, he puts his phone in the box and like he can't even get it.
I love it.
Yeah, it's great. Well, yeah, if there's anything else you want to share right now, like with the viewers about getting through hard times, or just anything you want to get out there, I would love to hear it. And
Hmm.
if not, we can conclude as well.
My last message is to slow down. Like, we have been raised to believe that we are our success, that we are our business, that we are what we do. And I feel it's really important to take a step back and just be, like, slow down, bring it back to the basics, spend time in nature, connect with people you love, connect with yourself. Like, slow down. The objective is not go, 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 reach this goal. And then we're going to look back and realize that we were never present. So, like, be present now. That feels like a really important message.
That's a great message. hmm Well, this has been absolutely amazing. And I really respect you for coming on my channel, coming on a raw vegan channel. And I've loved having this conversation with you. It's been absolutely amazing.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me. I'm
Yeah,
excited that we did this together, and excited to see how this supports others who tune into your channel.
absolutely. And I do hope to the viewers that this has added some value to your day. If it has, definitely give this a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. I could create great videos every single week. And we will see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Mwah.